up, guys? This is just a test, really. I might go into a talk or something. I'm not really too sure, but right now I'm really just doing a test, and I know it's kind of late right now, but I really do appreciate you guys. If you're watching it live, I do appreciate you guys watching. So, okay, it looks like we are live here. All right, so since we're here live, let's see here. Okay. Well, I guess I can talk about what's actually on the screen here. I really wasn't planning on going live, but I noticed something, right? And it kind of shocked me. This is really kind of like what I've been through throughout my entrepreneurship and things like that. And it amazes me that most people don't quit entrepreneurship because you know we're incapable or you're incapable or I'm incapable. I realize that a lot of people quit entrepreneurship because nobody actually warned us about what it feels like to be an entrepreneur. What it feels like to actually build something with no safety net, no applause, and no guarantee whatsoever. There's a version of entrepreneurship we're sold, right? It's clean, it's curated, and it's always winning. And it tells you if you just wake up earlier, post more consistently, manifest harder, success will eventually tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, congratulations, you actually made it. Kudos to you, two thumbs up, right? And that version is comforting. It really is. That version really is comforting, but it's also frictional. And I think it's because real entrepreneurs aren't building from comfort. We're really out here building from pressure. Pressure from uncertainty, pressure from moments where the numbers don't add up, even even when the motivation clocks out early too. And some of us are literally building while broke. Some of us while we're grieving a lost loved one. Some while we're unseen. Some while we're carrying the extra weight of being underestimated before we ever even speak up. And today, I actually want to talk about that entrepreneur because I'm that entrepreneur. You're that entrepreneur. You were that entrepreneur. We're the ones who are actually building while we're bleeding. Well, I really should say tonight. So, we're taught to treat pressure, right? Like it's a problem. Like like something actually went wrong. Uh if it's this hard, maybe I'm not meant for this, right? And that's really comfort culture talking. It really is. It's not something where we actually consider it to be like a pressure glitch or anything like that. It's, And you have to realize that pressure isn't a glitch. Pressure is literally the environment that we live in. We always are out here getting pressure tested. And you have to realize engineers don't panic when bridges are stressed out. We test them constantly. Uh, they want to know where it breaks. And entrepreneurship is a stress test on our character and not just our business model. So, okay, it looks like I'm having some technical difficulties. I might have to end up try doing this again later on because it seems like I'm going in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. So let me see. Let me see here. I hate having these kind of difficulties. I really do. But again, it's nothing that really seems to really phase people who are like not actually meant for this kind of life. And when you think about it, it really does not just pressure test our business models, it pressure tests us on our character as well. And for many founders, right, especially if you're a black founder, right, or a marginalized founder, or a founder who inherited some sort of leverage, this kind of pressure is not optional. It's literally structural. And you're not just managing some sort of cash flow here. You're literally managing access, bias, a delayed trust, uh, the quiet skepticism in rooms you didn't even decide to design. It just popped up. And that doesn't really mean that you retreat. It means you train for the weight and not the comfort. And I guess that's also where you have to be aware that motivation is some sort of emotional weather. It changes, it disappears, and discipline for that in itself is literally the infrastructure. It stays. And not only that, you have to realize that motivation shows up when things are literally going well for you. Discipline shows up when the work is boring, it's humbling, and even quiet, right? And philosophers understood this long before podcasts even existed, before live streaming like I'm doing right now even existed. You have people who are Stoic philosophers who never say anything, hey, I feel inspired today, so I'll govern an empire. These philosophers more or less said that this is a task and I'm going to do it. And you have to realize that entrepreneurship under constraint doesn't really care how any of us feel. It cares how we execute. And I think the uncomfortable truth here is discipline without applause really does feel lonely. Uh, there's literally seasons when you're doing everything right and nothing outside of you feels as if it's going to confirm it. No likes, no sales spikes, no validation. And this is where I believe most people quit. Not because the strategy failed, but because the ego couldn't survive the silence. So, again, I know it's late, and I want you to pretty much try and picture this. When resources get tight, do I know I've done this myself. I begin to start thinking louder. Sometimes the fear narrates everything, the doubt negotiates uh, everything. And short-term thinking starts making promises that are going to be unkept. And me personally, I hate making promises that I cannot keep. And scarcity doesn't create the bad decisions. That comes from that survival mindset, right? And what that does, it reveals how you already think. Now, under pressure, some people panic and chase everything. Yet, and still, some people freeze. Some start compromising values for speed, and None of those are really business problems. They're thinking problems. Strategic thinking asks better questions, if you ask me. Strategic thinking doesn't really ask, how do I make money fast, but what compounds everything if I actually stay consistent at what I'm doing? Or it doesn't ask who will save me, because you realize like no one's coming to save you. And you may even begin to question, instead of who will save me, you'll begin to question what system reduces dependency. uh Shit, excuse the language, but why you may even not act, it doesn't make you ask the question, why is this happening to me, but what is this training me to actually handle later on in life, down my journey in my business path. uh, if you can't manage $1,000 with clarity, $100,000, it's not going to save you. I think it's really just going to expose you. And this is why I believe identity comes before outcomes, right? Because most people want new results without a new identity. They want new revenue without new standards, new outcomes without new boundaries, new respect without new behavior. And in reality, it doesn't work like that. Identity is what you would call the operating system, and outcomes are just the screen when you think about it. So when you decide, I'm a builder, certain behaviors start to become non-negotiable. Builders tend to document, review, and course correct everything without any drama, or with at least drama or friction that we can possibly find. And when you, or even myself, decide that, hey, we say I'm disciplined, procrastination stops sounding harmless. It becomes like a death sentence, if you ask me, right? And when nobody is watching, identity is the only accountability that you, and let alone myself, actually have. And even so, uh, willpower in itself is very expensive. It drains our energy very fast. It kind of feels like we're dealing with a narcissist almost. And we all, if you haven't dealt with a narcissist will literally drain all of your energy. And similar to that, you also notice that systems are cheap. They begin to repeat, they work when you're tired. And entrepreneurs under constraint don't need more motivation when you really boil it down. What we actually need are better systems, simpler systems at that. And not only that, daily review too. uh Outreach, weekly outreach, content cadence, learning loops. And none of it's pretty. None of it is pretty at all, but it is functional. It's very functional. And if you rely on, hey, I'm feeling like it, I feel like doing this, or I feel like doing that, you'll lose to someone who relies on calendars. I'm not sure if you've ever done that, but I know I've done it. Uh, yeah, I really have. Excuse me. Not only that, when you really tend to think about it, consistency does get boring. I know that for a fact. Excuse me, low power mode here. Battery's starting to die, so I'm trying to make this quick. Consistency does feel boring, but inconsistency is very, very expensive. So when you're ahead of your environment, it doesn't really feel like leadership. It really feels like isolation. And I remember Ty Lopez saying, when you're in that area of isolation, this is where things start to begin to get very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Powerful for you, because people begin to question you. They even begin to misunderstand you, and sometimes people even mock you. And that doesn't mean you pivot your vision every time someone doubts it. It means you have to develop discernment. You have to. And not all feedback is actually wisdom. Some feedback is fear looking for company. Persistence even. That looks absolutely idiotic when you think about it, right up until it looks inevitable. But the funny thing is, nobody sees the nights you didn't quit. Nobody sees the restraint, the moment you chose integrity over shortcuts. But those moments do tend to stack on top of each other. And legacy isn't built when you're winning. It's literally built when you're choosing who to be when nobody's watching. And for somebody like myself, who's a black founder, right? Getting my DBA or beginning my sole proprietorship, it feels like legacy is resistance. It's not rage, it's not reckless, but it's clarity, it's strategy, it's somewhat like a self command almost. And I think the real flex isn't fast money whatsoever. It's what you would call emotional regulation under pressure, uh, clear thinking in chaos, execution without applause. And when you really try to dissect it, entrepreneurship under constraint doesn't break you, it really reveals you. And if you let it, it will sharpen you into someone who cannot be replaced, ignored, or you can't even be erased for that matter. I mean, this goes back into a blog post that I made not too long ago, a few months ago actually, saying that, hey, if I stop doing this, will people miss me? And when that does happen, you realize these things happen not because you're lucky, but because you actually stayed disciplined. It happened because you stayed disciplined when it was inconvenient to you. And I honestly believe that's how real builders are made. Not in comfort, but literally in the trenches. I think, yeah, that's going to be the end of this. I'm going to go ahead and leave this here. Sorry for the big old floating head there in front of the screen, but I'm using my phone here. I'm trying out this Restream app, and I'm kind of liking it, to be honest with you. Streaming on my LinkedIn and my YouTube page right now, and I have to, I have to actually be proud of this right now, because this is something that I don't normally do. I don't really put myself out there like that. And I'm kind of glad I did, because this only shows more and more resilience. And I hope this shows that you guys who are watching this actually have resilience in you too. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to check out the website here. It's at the ticker at the bottom. I am Shelby Clark online. There you can get your free personalized marketing diagnosis. Just enter in your information, download the brief. Once you fill that brief out, send it to me. I'll get back to you within 24 hours, and we'll chat it up to see if you guys actually have leverage for your business, or if you guys already are in business. This is specifically for LinkedIn I'm speaking on now. We'll see if I can actually get you a boost to your business. If not, I'll let you know if you guys need to cut out any bullshit that you may have in your business, and try and make things a little bit more simpler and more compounded for you. All right. But with that being said, deuces, y'all. This your man Shelby. I'm out, and y'all be easy as always.